Having a narcissistic sibling is like growing up in a constant competition that you never signed up for. They don't just want to be better than you, they want to be the only one that matters. So here's what it can look like. 1, they are obsessed with one-upping you. If you get praise, they suddenly need attention. If you succeed, they'll either ignore it or tear it down. Number 2, they tend to rewrite family history. They'll lie to your parents, manipulate stories, paint themselves as the golden child while making you look difficult or unstable. Number 3, they'll use your vulnerabilities against you. Things that you shared in confidence with them, they use it as ammo. And if you confront them, they'll say you're too sensitive. Number 4, they get praised for traits that you were punished for. You were called bossy, but they do the same thing and they get called a leader. Or you were too emotional, yet for them, they're seen as being passionate. Same behavior, different treatment. They might also create chaos and then play the victim. So they'll stir the pot, then act shocked when you react, and somehow you're always the one who has to apologize. If you spent your life trying to prove you're not the problem, you're not alone. Having a narcissistic sibling can feel like a lifetime of walking on eggshells inside your own family. You're not dramatic, you're not overreacting, you're just targeted.
So someone asked, what about siblings that are narcissists? So here's a compilation with that. So, if you have a sibling that's a narcissist, you are seen, we see you, we see each other. I'm like 80% certain that my stepsister is a narcissist, or at least she was. I haven't spoken to her in over 10 years, but that's besides the point. Anyway, let's just get right into the video. And I'll just say real quick, because I'm quick to cut it. Also, don't get comfortable. I cut people off real quick. So, I have not spoken to my stepsister in years. Granted, she don't speak to me either. So I guess it's a mutual cutoff. But all right, let's keep going.
Narcissistic siblings, you bet they exist. Let's talk about what it's like to have a narcissistic sibling. Sibling rivalry is as old as time. But how do you know if your sibling is not just a rival in the normative sense, but is actually a narcissist? And you've been gaslighted into thinking that this is just normal family drama. Here are 5 signs your sibling might be a narcissist. Number 1, they need to be the golden child forever. Despite your successes, they will try to figure out a way to demean you or outshine you. Your success feels like a threat to them, not a cause for celebration. Number 2, they make you the scapegoat. If something goes wrong in the family, they blame you, even if they caused the problem. Number 3, they weaponize family loyalty. They expect you to be loyal to them no matter what, but they will be the first ones to throw you under the bus if it benefits them. And then they blame you for being disloyal. Number 4, like all narcissists, they don't have a lot of empathy. They might fake concern, but it's shallow. And they never really show up for you in any real or meaningful way. And if they do show up for your pain, it's usually because it garners them some positive attention, or it's a way to get some control over you. Number 5, they rewrite the past. They tell childhood stories that always paint them as the hero or the victim, while you're painted as the villain. And if you challenge their story, they accuse you of being dramatic or too sensitive. If this hits close to home, you are not alone. Narcissistic siblings absolutely exist, and they can tear down the fabric of any family. And for you, healing might mean fighting back, speaking your truth, or even breaking contact with them. Let me know in the comments if you have a narcissistic sibling and whether it's helpful for me to make more videos about narcissism in families of origin.
You will never have a good relationship with a narcissistic sibling. Even when you reach adulthood, do not expect them to change. A narcissistic sibling is highly manipulative and will turn your other siblings against you, and even your parents, as they covertly abuse you. To the outside world, they will play the perfect role, and as you suffer in silence, no one will believe you. They create chaos all around you, lie, and will bring you down to your lowest. This abuse does not change as you get older. They may try to be your best friend and may even try to be involved in your children's lives, but they do not have your best interest at heart.
Beware of narcissism in non-romantic relationships, sibling edition. A narcissistic sibling can sometimes be your first experience with a bully. A narcissistic sibling will be super competitive with you even when you don't know it. Like, oh, are we in competition? I had no idea. And they will do whatever it takes to beat you. Disclaimer, not everyone is a narcissist. Just because you don't like someone's boundaries, you don't appreciate their priorities, you get into constant conflicts with them, it doesn't mean that they're a narcissist. Only a medical professional can diagnose somebody with mental illness. And I do think that this word is thrown around a lot. Do you feel like your sibling always needs to be the center of attention? And when they aren't, they are very uncomfortable, they're ready to leave, they don't like this place, they don't like these people, and a lot of fault and blame. Oh, the only reason why you're successful is because you were raised this way. We struggled when I grew up and I didn't get the same opportunities. You were spoon-fed. I had to hustle. Like, that ain't my fault. You ever talk to your sibling about something like you think that you can confide in them, and then when mad day came or when they got mad at you, they turned around and threw the stuff back in your face? A narcissistic sibling can't handle someone else liking you. A family member, friends, coworkers, if they hear someone speaking highly of you, they're going to try to convince them of reasons why they shouldn't like you. Oh, well, did you know she does this? Have you ever seen her angry? Unfortunately, you have no bond with your narcissistic sibling, no matter how hard you try. So there's not going to be a time where they're going to support you. Sometimes you feel like when you're doing bad or when you're in a down season, they enjoy it. A narcissistic sibling will joke with you in front of other people, but the jokes are rooted in truth and they're very negative, and sometimes they trigger insecurities about you that only your sibling would know. Obviously, like all narcissistic siblings don't respect your boundaries. They want to give you unwanted advice. They criticize everything about you, from how you dress, how you wear your hair, how you parent your child, to how you love on your man. Unlike dealing with parents, I totally recommend no contact for narcissistic siblings. Sometimes you have to remove yourself from a situation until somebody shows you they can have better behavior regarding you, and then you allow them back into your life in baby steps. That being said, if you do go no contact with your narcissistic sibling and you are still in contact with your family, your parents, other siblings, this may cause a rift in the family. People may want to urge you to violate your boundaries and talk to your sibling because they're your sibling. Gone are the days where we allow behaviors to happen to us just because of the title the person holds in our life. You deserve love, respect, kindness, and support from your sibling. Ultimately, you have to do what's best for you and your family.
Narcissistic siblings will put you through the cycle of abuse. Idolize, devalue, discard. If you try to confront them about the toxicity that they do, you will experience gaslighting, stonewalling, and narcissistic rage. Narcissistic siblings will run smear campaigns against you throughout your entire life. They will not take accountability for the things that they do. Narcissistic siblings tend to infantilize you. They treat you like you are childlike because they have memories of you since when you were a child. Narcissistic siblings will team up with each other to bully and clobber the empathetic sibling. Or sometimes the narcissist sibling will team up with the narcissist parent to bully the empathetic sibling. Narcissistic siblings bully you, belittle you, and obsess over your personal life. They're entitled. They think they're entitled to knowing everything that's going on with your life, even though you don't even have a close relationship with them.
Sibling abuse, it doesn't come from just being extremely cruel. It comes from actually being deeply insecure. Here's the thing, the insecurity, it didn't just come out of nowhere, okay? It was also deeply rooted in their childhood. The abusive sibling in their childhood likely felt extremely unseen. Growing up, they probably really didn't feel like they had any value. And I get it, right? That's really hard to understand as the victim of the sibling abuse because you feel like they were your parents' favorite because they always got away with whatever they were doing. It was easier for your parents to not have to deal with their behavior or look at themselves as to why they were causing this behavior from their child. They expected you to shrink because you were the easier child. That doesn't necessarily make the abusive child the favorite child. Does that make sense? They probably grew up feeling ignored, compared, shamed, embarrassed. At some point in their life, they learned the only way to feel powerful is to make somebody else feel powerless. And that's where we have the birthplace of control. As we know, when that pain becomes unhealed, what does it do? It grows. Even as adults, these patterns, they will continue to repeat themselves. The digs, the manipulation, the gossip, the need to always one-up you and be right about everything. It's not because they moved on. It's because they never left their childhood. They are still reacting from the place of being scared and hurt as a child, doing whatever they can just to stay on top and survive. Here's the hard truth is you can never heal what you don't face. Most abusive siblings, or any abuser for that matter, they won't ever face it, because of course that would mean them taking accountability and admitting what they have been doing and how they've been treating people is wrong. And to confront that would mean to really confront the shame that is actually driving that behavior. If you're dealing with an abusive sibling like this, you guys, I am creating something just for you that is really going to help you. How to be able to really handle the digs and the gossip and honestly the passive aggressive comments that they always make. Somebody who has suffered from family abuse, I saw a need for this and I want to help. And don't forget to follow me, because honestly, this is what I do. I talk about the things that nobody wants to talk about. I make you feel seen and heard and loved. I help you create the life that you have been wanting, free from the people who are hurting you. I love you guys.
Narcissistic siblings tend to infantilize you. They view you as a small child rather than an individual who's capable of making decisions on your own, a professional, a multifaceted human being. They don't view you as this, a person who is a sister, a brother, a mother, a father. When a person is infantilized, they're treated in a way which denies their maturity in age or experience. Being infantilized can cause a person to feel low self-esteem, low self-worth, confusion, low confidence. Interestingly enough, when a person is infantilized and they assert their rights to defend themselves, advocate for themselves, speak up for themselves, and prove that they are a mature person deserving of respect and kindness, these things will go unnoticed and denied by the narcissistic siblings.
Here are 3 signs that your siblings, your brother and your sisters, ain't about shit. Quick disclaimer. Don't get in my comment sections talking about, thank God my family wasn't like this. Thank God my parents and I have a close relationship. I'm cool with my siblings. It's very fucking insensitive to those of us who suffered abuse by our family members. Get your motherfucking ass out my comment section or you will be blocked. Keep your comments to yourself, because this ain't for the weak. Sign number 1, your siblings are two-faced. That's right. Your parents are abusive and your siblings know that your parents are abusive and they'll play you against your parent. When you distance yourself from your toxic family, your siblings will come around trying to be cool with you. What's up, sibling? What's up? Yada, yada, yada. You know, I can't stand mom or dad. They get on my nerves. They'll try to play like they can't stand your parents. But what they're really doing is they're spying on behalf of your toxic parents, and they're going to get in your business. They got to play cool. They got to play you like a sucker to get information out of you to take it back to your trifling toxic ass parents. They can't be trusted. A two-faced. Do not tell any of your personal business to your siblings. They're not on your side. They never was. Their loyalty is to your toxic parents. Sign number 2, they're fucking jealous and envious of your success. If you graduate from college, you start a business, you buy a new car, them motherfuckers will be your biggest fucking haters next to your hating ass mommy and daddy. Okay? You got to stop sharing your blessings and set some boundaries with your fucking siblings, because them low lives ain't going to be as successful as you. And they have every bit of 24 hours to get on their shit and get on their grind, but they'll sit up and hate you when you become successful. Fuck that shit. Keep your siblings out your business. Let them lurk on social media and see just how blessed you are, how God is working through your life. But keep them away from all your blessings and shit. Don't share shit with them. They're fucking haters. And they're delusional as fuck too. They'll go around and tell everybody that you're jealous of them. Nah, baby, they're fucking jealous of you. Sign number 3, they're constantly trying to upstage you. That's right. If your siblings are true narcissists, they will always be in competition because your trifling mammy and daddy taught them to compete with you. They out here in these streets talking about, you want to be like them, you jealous of them. And they ain't got half the shit you got. And they jealous of your spirit because inside they know they ain't about shit. And you're a good person and they envy that. Your siblings are in constant competition. And you can also blame your fucking parents for doing that shit, playing y'all against each other to create jealousy and competition amongst their children. Don't compete with your siblings. Just cut them off and be better. Your presence and your happiness is enough to fucking drive them insane. Purchase my latest book, My Family Can Kiss My Ass. It's on Amazon if you're struggling to cut off your siblings.
And the reason that you were never close to your sibling growing up is because your narcissistic parent pinned y'all against each other. They triangulated you. That's why you and your siblings were always arguing. That's why you and your siblings were always motherfucking fist fighting. That's why you never felt the true bond of a sibling. Your narcissistic parent knew that when y'all fell the fuck out, they would be the one that you report to, which in those moments meant that you were competing for your parents' love. Y'all were competing against each other to get your parents' validation. And your narcissistic parent enjoys every bit of it. They love when you and your sibling fight. Your narcissistic parent loves when you snotty as fuck, crying and angry with tears in your eyes, trying to explain a story. Your narcissistic parent loves when they are in the midst of the chaos because chaos is their peace. Nobody apologizes. They don't try to bring you closer together. Each and every problem is left unresolved. Each time a problem is left unresolved, it creates open wound after open wound after open wound. It never closes. For that reason, you and your sibling grow up hating each other. All of these situations y'all likely throw up in each other's faces because it was never resolved when it was supposed to be.
I went no contact with my sister a little.
4 signs you have a narcissist sibling. Hi, I'm Candice and I'm a trauma and mindset coach and I help you have a healthy relationship with yourself and with others. So number 1 is that everything is about them. They have to be the center of attention and everything will go back to them. Number 2 is that they're really entitled. So they expect you to use your time, energy, money, support on them, but you will notice that they will not give it back in return and they probably won't even be really that grateful for what you've given them. Number 3 is that they will not take responsibility for their behavior. They won't say sorry, and even you might take a stand against them to try and make them feel responsible, but you might feel guilt, so you let them back in without them feeling sorry and receiving that apology, because you're never going to get it. And number 4 is that they don't have any empathy. So you might speak to them about how you feel, but really it all comes back to how they feel, and they may even use it as ammunition against you, and they will may be jealous towards you.
A narcissistic sister thinks it's her job to tell you what a terrible person you are. Her common tactics are, she gives you the silent treatment, never caring about you or your life, and turning others against you.
So I just wanted to say a little bit about the characteristics of a narcissistic sibling. Many times in family dynamics, you have the two. And what do I mean when I say you have the two? You have a child who has narcissistic characteristics, and then you have another child who has the characteristics of an empath, or someone who feels deeply, someone who is highly sensitive, a highly sensitive person, or an HSP. That's what they're called, an HSP. And in these relationships between the siblings, the narcissist, the narcissistic sibling, is continuously taking advantage of his or her empathic sibling. Always, you could watch it. As a matter of fact, many times when you have twins, you have one that actually leans a little more towards one direction and then one that leans a little more towards the other. And you'll see that twin is a little meaner. That twin needs a little more attention. And that twin seems a bit more entitled in general. when I watched that twin interact with his or her sibling. So the first thing we'll say about a narcissistic sibling and the characteristics of one is the need to be the center of attention. The sibling always does whatever he or she has to do so that all the eyes are on them. And if the empath or the other sibling has a talent or is able to do something, or if there is a chance that that sibling will stand out, what you'll see, especially if they're very young and they're not fully aware yet, what you'll see is a very obvious and profound effort by the developing narcissistic sibling to sabotage what the other sibling is trying to do, to almost quench their potential. Like there's an effort, an obvious effort to make sure that their sibling doesn't develop in an area. Maybe if it's playing a sport, or maybe it's because they're intelligent, then the narcissistic child will try to hurt them in the sport, will try to keep them concerned about fun and games and keep them distracted, instead of sort of letting them, learn if they're intelligent and read and do things. And so that's the first characteristic, is the narcissistic sibling needs to be the center of attention. We have another characteristic where the sibling feels entitled. They always make known their needs, and they make their needs known with the assumption that their needs will be met by outside stimuli. Entitlement is the expectation that your inner needs will be met externally. That means something on the outside is always going to accommodate you. And so that's the sibling who's entitled, who always makes sure that you know what their needs are and they get their needs met, and they expect you to meet their needs. And this hurts in many cases if parents aren't paying attention and if they're not fully aware of it. Then this hurts the other child who is not entitled, but maybe expecting that things to be sort of fair. Well, I see that my sibling got what they needed, so I guess I'm going to get what I need. Many times, though, it works out exactly this way, where the narcissist or the more aggressive or toxic sibling gets a lot of what they need. And the sibling is not like that. They don't get a lot of what they need. And even if they're very giving, their giving is not reciprocated. It's just take, take, take. And they actually get used to this. And this sort of influences their personality when they grow up. And so if parents aren't paying attention and sort of making little adjustments and seeing what they can do to help the behavior of the narcissist child, there's an incredible impact on the child who's not so much like that and who may be highly sensitive or have these characteristics of an empath. And then another characteristic for the narcissistic sibling is they do not have empathy and they do not care about your feelings. I saw these two siblings, twins, and I knew which one was which. They were playing a game. They were eight years old. And the narcissistic sibling, there was only one game for the two of them. The narcissistic sibling, when he would mess up on the game, he would start it over. And so he wasn't giving the brother, his sibling, a chance to play the game because he does not care about anyone else's feelings. He doesn't care about your need. And so he just kept starting it over and over again. I saw the other sibling because I was just observing. It wasn't time for me to sort of deal with the family and this particular dynamic between the siblings. So I was observing, and I saw the more soft-hearted or the more empathic sibling becoming more and more and more frustrated until eventually that sibling began to cry. And when the sibling started crying, the narcissistic child acted as if nothing was happening. So if this is happening to you, or if this is familiar to you, then you may have been dealing with a narcissistic sibling while growing up. And then another characteristic is the narcissistic sibling only sees other family members, and especially siblings, as a source of narcissistic supply. So to a narcissist, a narcissist needs praise, and they need to feel that they are the center of all the attention. And that praise and feeling that you get all the attention gives you a supply of positive energy, a supply of attention, which makes you actually feel good. It causes the sibling a dopamine release, endorphins release, and so they crave that and they want that continuously. But even if you give it to them all the time, they don't have feelings for you, the one giving the attention and the praise. They only have a concern for the praise itself. If you stop giving them the praise, then if they can, they will easily just move on to someone else. Actually, that is a primary characteristic of any narcissist, is they just need people to supply them with the things they need, with the attention and with the praise. They don't make the connections personal enough to where they actually care about you. They don't really have the ability to care about you because their only concern is themselves and the voice in their heads and what they're thinking. That's a primary concern. And so that's another characteristic of seeing other people, other human beings, as a supply for something, not even fully seeing them as human beings, but seeing them as vessels that praise, seeing them as something less than human that they can discard and deal with in a transactional manner. Okay, and then the last characteristic of a narcissistic sibling that I'll discuss is when you take a break from them, you feel better. So this same set of twins I was studying with the game that I spoke about a moment ago, when I moved them into separate rooms, immediately the empathic and highly sensitive twin became more relaxed in the shoulders, began to laugh and giggle by himself, found something to do, and was very content and satisfied. However, the narcissistic child was trying to actually get into the room with the twin, his twin, so that he could get more of that supply of attention that he needed. Because the attention he got from his empathic twin was the empathic twin's displeasure and frustration. That was the supply and the attention that the narcissistic sibling needed from him. But if you're around a narcissistic person, family member, or sibling, you feel better when you part ways.
I think it's a challenge when you grow up in a situation where there's narcissism, there's abuse, there's trauma, there's all these different things. It's a very challenging experience. And so it pits children against each other. And I think that the narcissistic sibling becomes a narcissist to survive in the situation. And it's just sad. It's very, very sad. And a lot of these traumas need to be stopped. At some point, we cannot keep passing down these cycles of harm to the next generation. We have to be able at some point to be like, look, this is not okay. This is too much. We're not standing for this. Not only are we not standing for this, but we are not going to put the next generation through what we went through. That doesn't necessarily mean that you even have your own children, but just in general, like these kinds of things have to stop. And even if you don't have the ability to impact the next generation, there's at least one child you can impact. That's your inner child whose sibling bullied you, or your inner child whose parents bullied you, or the inner child who had hands on their body that they didn't want. Let's be real. A lot of people have experienced a lot of really, really, really horrible stuff as children, point blank, period. So that version of you is still there. That version of you is still there and needs love, healing, and attention. So do whatever you need to do to prioritize your mind. Even the Indian meditation thing that I did, Sudarshan Kriya, in the class, they taught us you need to protect your mind by any means necessary. Okay? Period. All right, let's keep going.
I don't think people talk about narcissistic family members enough. We talk about the men, we talk about the women that we date, but what about the ones that we're fucking related to? See, these ain't just difficult people. These are folks that bleed on you and say that you cut them. Narcissistic family members are two-faced as hell. Sweet in public, nasty in private. They love playing the victim, and they're the damn villain. These type of people are jealous of their own blood. Compete with their kids, siblings, nieces, nephews. If you're doing better than them, you are 100% an enemy now. Manipulative as fuck. They'll twist your words, your memories, and your reality, and they have you question your own fucking sanity. Guilt trip champions. After everything I did for you becomes their national anthem. They're emotionally bankrupt. They don't celebrate your wins, your graduation, things that you are doing in life. Hell, even if you just improving your behavior, they will only see you for the old you and not the new you. Can't admit what they're wrong, but always calling somebody else out. Can't love without control. I always tell people the best way to deal with the narcissistic ass family members is to stay a fuck away from them. Being around them is like drinking poison slowly. You won't notice the damage until you're doubting yourself, hating yourself, and repeating their patterns. They are so fucking bad for your spirit that it's not even funny. They'll drain your energy, make you feel guilty for growing, healing, or simply saying no. Make you feel like you're the crazy one because you call out the family BS or BS in general. Force you to shrink so they can feel big. Keep you in survival mode so you don't feel safe enough to thrive. They don't want peace, they want power over you. If you don't serve their ego, they'll smear you, lie on you, play the victim, or worse, turn others against you, which is your own other fucking family members. Narcissistic family members' favorite thing to do is pass down their traumas. They breed pain like it's a fucking tradition. They don't just hurt you, they raise the next generation to be just like them. They raise kids on fear, not love. They shame vulnerability. So they kids become emotional numb. They don't apologize like ever. So the next generation don't have no fucking accountability. Before you know it, little girls become grown women that can't say no. Little boys become the generation that confuses control with love. The cycle keeps cycling until somebody breaks it. They'll hurt you, blame you for reacting, and then call you disrespectful when you finally chose peace over proximity. Narcissistic family members are so fucking bad to the point where they will weaponize culture, religion, or this just how I was raised as an excuse to being emotional abusive or fucking narcissists. Let's call it what it is. Silent treatment equals emotional punishment. Failing to be heard equals manipulation. Calling you names is like normalizing abuse. And this is why narcissistic family members hate the healed family members. They get offended because your growth exposes their dysfunction. Your boundaries feel like rejection to them. Your independence feels like betrayal. Your peace makes them uncomfortable. And this is why sometimes you can't get along with certain family members because you're not meant to get along. Your healing feels like you're turning against the family. They'll say shit like you changed. Well, good. You think you better than us? Like, nah, I just stopped accepting dysfunction as normal. You need to humble yourself. No, bitch, you need to heal yourself. You don't owe a narcissistic family member shit. Not a call, not a text, not a visit. You're not here to be their emotional dumping ground, their scapegoat, keeping the peace by losing yourself, or staying silent to make them feel comfortable. Fuck them.
3 signs your sister is a narcissist. Number 1, she competes with you. She doesn't support you. Your success threatens her, and your happiness makes her cold. Everything is a power play. Number 2, she plays the victim when you set boundaries. The moment you speak up, you're the problem. And number 3, she talks behind your back, but then plays nice when you're around her. It's all fake love and silent sabotage. And her loyalty changes based on who's watching. Because she doesn't see you as family, she sees you as competition.
So let's talk a little bit about covert narcissistic siblings. Okay, so not all narcissists are overt. And also there's a lot of people who are not mental health professionals who are doing couch diagnoses because it's like a stigma going on in like society today where everyone is calling everyone a narcissist, even a narcissist. I'm a mental health professional, okay? we look through diagnoses to see if anything applies to ourselves, just like a medical doctor looks through diagnoses to see if any health issues apply to himself. We do the same thing. How do you know if you're not a narcissist? If you've never asked, if you've never contemplated, then you are the person that you're talking about. Me, I have done the question asking. I have looked at every symptom. So I know that it's eliminated from me. I have too much empathy, too much love, too much compassion. I help people for a living. I'm just using that as an example to say that not all people that do horrible things are narcissists. There are millions of disorders, right? It could be sociopathy, it could be borderline, it could be so many things that's happening. It could also be multiple personality issues. It could be that a person is vindictive and evil. It could be that they're possessed by a spirit, a demon, a demonic spirit. So with covert narcissists, they are the most dangerous narcissists because you don't see them coming. Overt narcissists, you can see coming. Okay, so there's like 9 symptoms that we have to diagnose in order to determine if someone is suffering from narcissistic personality disorder, right? Whereas you can suffer from narcissism and not have the disorder, right? So covert narcissists are very dangerous because they are hidden. They're like snakes in the grass. They and also too, many of them are our siblings. Okay, hello, hi, I have a covert narcissistic sibling. So they turn people against you. They work against your will. They're competitive. They have a thing that we call it's a term we use called flying monkeys. So flying monkeys are the people that are in their orbit, the people who believe everything that they say, their friends, their significant other, any close relatives that they have, any childhood friends, their children, whoever is in their orbit are usually the flying monkeys because they convince them that everything that they're saying about the sibling that they're actually against is true. So a covert narcissistic sibling will work against their sibling. Like if the sibling is caretaking for their parents, they'll sabotage caregivers. They'll turn people against that sibling. They will sabotage business deals, housing, all kinds of things, money, because they're working against the favor that the sibling has on their life. So they're like the ones that are like working against you behind the scenes. My covert narcissistic sibling is very wicked. It's like but it's subliminal. It's very under the radar. So a lot of people believe that she's a victim. A lot of people believe the things that she says. A lot of people, they don't understand that they're under her spiritual manipulation. She has a way of covering the eyes of people around her so they cannot see her clearly. Very manipulative, very vindictive, plays victim. Everyone is doing something to her. She's not doing anything to anyone. Anyhow, so because of their ability to manipulate, covert narcissists, and stay under the radar, and because they're usually insecure. See, that's another thing, is that a lot of the misconception is that a narcissist is arrogant. Let me tell you something. Narcissism is a self-esteem disorder. It is a disorder of self-esteem. So it doesn't matter if the person is covert or overt, they are still insecure. The covert narcissist is more accepting of their insecurities, and they're more like, I would say, low, like they're just on the low key. They're low key. And the overt narcissist is more like spectacular, in your face. They're more so defended against their narcissism. So they tend to be very in your face, very chest out, and all of those things, because they're compensating for the insecurity. Whereas the covert narcissist feels very inferior already, but what they do is they attack people unintentionally. They play mind games. They play like they don't know what you're talking about. They gaslight. They're manipulative, and they do things in that way to mess with you. Like if they know that you like Coke, they'll drink your Coke. If they know that you love a particular person, they'll turn that person against you. And some people might say, well, overt narcissists do the same thing. But no, they operate completely different, because the covert narcissist is rarely identified, and they're rarely acknowledged or recognized. People don't know that they are that, because there's this belief that narcissists are like these arrogant, abusive, malignant people, and not all of them. There are nice narcissists. There are altruistic narcissists, which are people who do good in the world, but it's only for themselves. It's only to look good. Like people who are like feeding the homeless, and they're like, they have a cameraman while they're feeding the homeless. Come on, you know? Or they're like in Africa feeding all the poor children, and they're like, you got me on videotape, right? You got this side. This is my good side. Narcissist. Altruistic narcissists. You have covert narcissists. There's many narcissists. And also, in psychoanalysis, we use narcissism in a very different way. We talk about narcissistic injury. We talk about narcissistic needs. We talk about all kinds of things. Like how everybody experiences it in infancy. So this message is really just about like covert narcissists, if it happens to be your sibling or something, because they're moving in a very subliminal way so that they're not detected. And that can be very stressful, because they're doing things and you know that they're doing it, but they're making you appear crazy because it's subliminal. Like they'll whisper something in your ear when nobody's watching, or they'll just sabotage you. Inbox me if you want to work with me, or if you need some support, or if you want to vent about this, because this is just a 7-minute video.
Sometimes it's not the parents who are narcissistic, it's your own sibling. And why does the narcissistic sibling sometimes target the elder parents or the other siblings? Let's dive into this on this fine Monday morning. Narcissists within a family system seek dominance and control. And if for whatever reason the narcissistic sibling can't be the golden child or the center of attention, sometimes they try to take that power later in life. And with a covert sibling, this might sound like, I know what's best, I'm doing this for mom's own good, back off. And in their mind, none of the other siblings are competent, so you'll hear things like, you can't handle this, I'm the reliable one here. Now, as the parents age, they tend to become a target because they have more needs, they're more vulnerable, so they're an easy source of supply for the narcissistic sibling. With that, they can use guilt and hold things over their head and say, after everything that I've done for you, they control the finances, medical access, the estate, and they can play the hero while isolating the parent from the other siblings. Now, the siblings can get targeted as well if they become a threat to their narrative. Because if you're a little scapegoat like me, you see everything clearly, you remember the truth, or the parent starts to, heaven forbid, trust you more, well now, they're losing control of you and the narrative, and that puts them at risk for exposure and accountability, a narcissist's biggest fear. And when this happens with any narcissist, they'll escalate. So they might rewrite history. They might try to turn the parent against you or your siblings. They might even accuse you of abandoning the family, especially if you don't live in close proximity. It's just a distraction. Or my personal favorite, they'll paint themselves as the loyal victim. I'm being targeted and attacked for my greatness. And you're probably wondering, if the parents aren't narcissistic and we didn't raise them this way, how the hell did this happen? Hard truth, being raised by healthy parents doesn't guarantee a child develops the same emotional capacities. Here are some possible contributing factors, and this is not about blame to the parents, it's just to give context. Their temperament or sensitivity to shame, their social comparisons to siblings, real or perceived favoritism or threat. Outside influences like peer groups, partners, online or in-person communities. Entitlement formed through academics, talent, financial status. And last but certainly not least, trauma the family or parents didn't recognize. So unfortunately, loving parents does not always equal prevention of developing narcissistic traits. And when the family or the aging parents become a target of this power and control, it can be really devastating.
Let's gather around for a little holiday cheer. No, that's not why we're gathering around. We're gathering around to talk about your narcissistic sibling and how to deal with them over the holidays. Let's forget about fixing them or finally being understood by them. Those things are not going to happen. This is about getting through the holidays with your dignity and your nervous system intact. Let's talk about 5 ways to manage your narcissistic sibling over the coming week. Number 1, stop preparing speeches and comebacks and one-liners that you think are finally going to change the trajectory of their behavior. That's not going to work. Focus instead on establishing boundaries. Boundaries and limits are your friend when dealing with a narcissistic sibling over the holidays. Think about where you're going to sit, how long you're going to stay, and setting a timeline for when you're actually going to leave. Logistics are boundaries even a narcissist can't argue with. Number 2, the narcissistic sibling is always going to try to cast you in a role. You're the defensive one, you're the sensitive one, you're the explosive one. Don't take the bait. Don't respond. Don't try to counteract their story. There's strength in silence. And being quiet is not defeat, it is strength. Number 3, keep your emotional delivery at a lower level than theirs. They love to get everybody worked up, especially you. When you give them short answers or a neutral delivery or response, this really de-escalates them because they're counting on you taking the bait and you ain't gonna take it. Number 4, break the private conversation trap. Narcissistic siblings always love to pull you aside and get you alone. This is where the real damage happens. They know how much they can get away with in front of other people, but when they get you alone, they can really assassinate your character and gaslight you at much more exaggerated levels. Stay in shared spaces and keep all conversations public. Number 5, you know the blow up is coming, so plan to leave before the blow up, not after. Try leaving while you still feel okay. Don't wait for them to cross that line. Surviving the holidays with a narcissistic sibling is not meant to be an exercise in how much you can endure. Practice self-care, practice distance, and don't get lulled into a peaceful conversation that you know is about to erupt sooner or later. Make sure you have an exit strategy by setting a time limit or actually driving yourself to the event so that you're the boss. You're in charge, and you don't have to put up with their BS every single holiday. Happy holidays, y'all.
My parents created the ultimate narcissist. My younger sister, Barb, she is the ultimate narcissist. She is the total embodiment of both of my parents. She will do anything that is, like, you got to really understand a narcissist. The true nature of the narcissist is really a demonic entity. That's what the world called it narcissist, but in the church it's called the Jezebel spirit. My sister is the true embodiment of it. She has both the Jezebel spirit and the Leviathan spirit. And what that thing does is it starts chaos. She is the queen of chaos. She will start something out of nowhere. Like just one week you're fine. If you ignore her, I told anybody, if you have to deal with my sister, the best way to deal with her is to ignore her. You got to pretty much move past her like she doesn't exist because she's always looking for an occasion to start some mess. And this sister of mine, my parents did such a wonderful job creating this demon. I'm so glad that I cut her ass off. That was the best decision I ever made. When I finally realized what I was up against, like the arguments with her last 30, 40 minutes to an hour. Because that spirit has to take its time to squeeze the air, the life out of you. When you're arguing with the narcissist, you're not arguing with the person, you're arguing with the entity, the demon that is in control, because they are not in control. That demon is in control, full control. With my sister and my parents, that demon is in full control. They listen to everything that demon says and they do it. If she get a thought, she's saying it, she's doing it, because that demon is in full control. So one thing I noticed about when I would argue with her, I promise you, it felt like some witchcraft shit was going on. Every single time I got into an argument with her, I felt like something was choking me, like I couldn't breathe, like I was suffocating. Every single time I got into an argument with that girl, it literally physically felt like something was choking me. So I learned that when this girl start talking, to just leave. You don't need to argue. You don't need to fight. Just leave, because if you argue with her, it is pure evidence that you're under demonic attack, because she is literally embodied with demons.
Narcissistic siblings, brother-sister enmeshment. What I have seen happen occasionally is there is a narcissistic sister who is enmeshed with her brother. Often the brother may be a black sheep or a scapegoat, and then the brother winds up with a new wife or girlfriend. But then the narcissistic sister does not like this very much because she loses some power and control over her brother. So what she will do is she will try to sabotage her brother's relationship, and she might might do this by spreading smear campaigns about his new wife or girlfriend, or she might try to subtly isolate him from her, but whatever it is, it ends up working a lot of times, because the narcissistic sister will punish him, she'll give him silent treatment, she might rage, and when the brother is enmeshed with her, these manipulation tactics unfortunately work. But this is definitely something to pay attention to, because it absolutely happens.
There are so many people who have told me how I remind them of their older brother who they suspect is narcissistic or is diagnosed, whatever. And as a narcissist with a younger sister, this hits home a little bit, especially when my sister told me how she believed that I hated her while we were growing up, and how that's a very similar sentiment all these people have given me about their older or younger brother or whatever. They asked me, do you think he hates me? Does he really hate me? And stuff like that. And I can't answer that. I'm never going to pretend that I can. Despite the same diagnosis, I can never know for sure. I'm not them. But I can say how I personally felt about my own sibling. There's so many times in my life where I felt like I hated my sister, where I was frustrated, because all I could think is, why can't you just not rock the boat? Just do what's asked of you and keep going forward so, we don't get unnecessary wrath. And a lot of that is, I think, nowadays, because I did fall into a lot of the making my sister the scapegoat that my parents kind of set up for us. I was more eager to blame a lot of the issues in the family on my sister than, look at the nuances of the situation. And that led to a lot of unwarranted aggression. And me and my sister's relationship a little more complicated because we both have personality disorders, so it's weird. But a lot of the mean things I would say would be out of frustration of like, come on, I'm trying to look out for you. Be better. You're like me. We are better than these people. Just do the smart thing. And I'm still horrible at showing any sort of real care. But trust me, I put some people in their place. I try to show my care my own way, even though it's a lot more cold and calloused than most people would expect. I remember once one of my friends called my sister stupid for some of her decisions, and I was like, she's fucking smarter than you, asshole. And honestly, I think that's an issue that's kind of been pervasive throughout my life, is the only way I know how to show love is being aggressive on the behalf of the person that I care about. And also now I'm at a point that I realize that that's, not enough, and that's not what care is supposed to look like. Especially when that aggression can turn on the person you care about so easily. But I never hated my sibling. I thought that she was the only person that could even remotely understand me, even if not completely. I don't think anybody could completely, but yeah, did I try, despite my anger and ego consistently getting in the way of that.
Your siblings hate your motherfucking guts. And here's 2 reasons why. The first reason is your narcissistic mother or narcissistic father, whichever one your siblings are closest to. Your parents have taught your siblings to fucking hate you because you are the scapegoat child. And 9 times out of 10, your parents have trained and groomed your siblings to also be narcissists as well. The second reason is your siblings hate you because you stood up to your parents. You do not allow your parents to get away with bullying you. Okay, you do not tolerate their abuse tactics. You went no contact and you're standing on business, because your parents have mistreated you and abused you for so long. You are now giving them consequences, which means you cut them off so they could sit in their own shit and think about what they did to you. Your siblings are terrified of your parents. Your siblings are so scared to cut your mother and father off, and they know your parents are toxic. They know your parents are abusive. And they also need they need handouts. Your siblings need fucking handouts, which means your parents are more than likely giving your siblings money, helping them pay their bills, mortgage, car note, babysitting. They're doing something to help your siblings function as adults, because your siblings cannot 100% function on their own as independent adults. Or your siblings need some form of validation. You know, your siblings are fucking toxic and abusive towards other people, and they can run back to mommy and mommy and daddy will back them up and support them on their bullshit. So they also seek validation from your parents and narcissistic supply. Either way, your siblings are not as strong as you. They are cowards, okay? They are weak-minded. It takes a lot of strength to break generational curses. It takes a lot of strength to go against your family, to seek out some sort of change because you're sick of your family being dysfunctional. Your siblings are not there yet. And guess what? They never will be. Your siblings are jealous of your strength. They're jealous that you are courageous. And they know that you are anointed. And they know that you stepped into your God-given purpose, and they have yet to find out what their purpose is, and they never will find out. And this is why they're so mad at you. You've allowed them to stay with your parents, and they're going to suffer with your parents and stay dysfunctional and caught up. And that is their karma for not breaking free from your family's cult-like narcissistic system. Stay blessed, y'all.
The scapegoat will endure abuse that other siblings in the family don't endure. Why is the scapegoat the scapegoat? It's hard to know. I've heard every reason in the book. The scapegoat simply knows they're the scapegoat. And it is actually because the scapegoat is a terrible legacy to take into adulthood, because they will forever wonder why. What was it about me?
What do you have to say to somebody who's listening saying, that was me?
You know, we'll start with trauma work, you know, validation of their experience. Because for a lot of scapegoats, they were told you were treated no differently. So we start with straight up, you were treated differently. What that happened. And that's the foundation. And you kind of grow from there. And that this was real. And that then you explain to them how narcissistic families work and how narcissistic personalities work. Because ultimately it wasn't their fault. It wasn't the scapegoat's fault. The next type is what I call sort of the helper. You know, the helper child is almost like a sort of a personal assistant. They are constantly exhausting themselves to do things for the parent. They may watch younger siblings. They might try to keep the house clean. They'll feel like they have to do this, not to be like a responsible player in the household, like everyone doing their part, but because they feel that this is the only way to get seen, recognized, or avoid the narcissistic parent's abuse. Another type of child we see is the fixer. The fixer is almost like this mini diplomat who's trying to insert themselves in at all times, trying to make sure, like, for example, if you have a narcissistic parent and a non-narcissistic parent, there can be really terrible verbal abuse, sometimes even violence, but more verbal, emotional abuse. And that fixer child will constantly be inserting themselves, and they're almost like a court jester to keep the parents from fighting.
All right, so keep in mind that if you have narcissistic siblings, just know that they are lusting after you. It don't matter what gender, man or a woman, it doesn't matter. They're lusting after you. It's a spirit of incest.
Siblings can grow up in the same house.
No siblings grow up in the same house. No siblings have the same parents. No siblings have the same family. No siblings have the same childhood. Why not? Number one, there's the birth order. Parents don't relate to the first child the way they relate to the second child. Then there's gender differences. And I'm not talking about whether parents love the kids or not. I'm talking about what actually happens. The child doesn't experience the parents' love. The child experiences the way the parent shows up. Number two, the parents' relationship might be in a different phase with one child and another. Then the parents might be in a different economic situation. The parents' lives might be different. Then each child will evoke a different response from the parent. You have 2 daughters and a son. I have 2 sons and a daughter. It's not that I loved or we loved any one of them more than the other, but we responded to them differently. And there's one more factor, which is children are born with different temperaments, which is they experience the world differently. So even if I could be the same parent to all my kids, which I couldn't be, they'd still have 3 different parents because they would experience me differently.
If you've been abused by your own sibling, you've probably experienced these 5 things. For one, they consistently undermine you and belittle you. Meaning they're going to be mocking, demeaning, belittling your choices, your career, your relationships. Let's not forget about your accomplishments, okay? And they're going to mask these comments as jokes or tough love. But really, their goal here is control, manipulation, not connection. Number 2, can we talk about the guilt trips, okay? They will use guilt trips to manipulate you. And honestly, this is something you probably experienced a lot as a child. And what I mean is they're going to be using guilt, the silent treatment, and honestly, they're going to be playing the victim a lot because they're going to manipulate you and guilt you into feeling like you are responsible for all of their problems. You solely are accountable for their emotions. Number 3, we see them often try to completely disrespect boundaries. And this is where I like to talk about boundaries have nothing to do with them. So a lot of times we're like, oh, they disrespected our boundary. But nobody can disrespect your boundary because a boundary, remind yourself now, a boundary is what you do based off of somebody else's decision. So the only person who disrespects your boundary is yourself if you don't uphold them. It's up to you to respect your boundary. And this is where it gets kind of twisted, but that doesn't mean they're going to test you every chance they get based off your boundary. And number 4 is, this one is so sad, is they compete with you and try to sabotage you. Instead of celebrating your wins, they completely try to minimize your success. Not only that, they are in full competition with you, whether it's something successful or completely heartbreaking. They are the queens or kings of being the one-uppers that we all know and love. And the worst one is number 5, which I think is so many people are at play here, okay? But is they pin other family members against you. And when they go to these other family members, they completely twist the narrative to make you look like the sole problem. And here's where I get really frustrated when parents get involved in this, is you always see the abusive sibling running over to that parent that enables them. And it's like their first phone call for validation. But then if you try to call that parent and you're like, hey, here's the other side of the story, or would you just please stay out of it? Then you are labeled the problem. If you liked this because you just resonated it and you've lived your whole life feeling like you were unheard and unseen and unloved, then follow me because I talk about this every single day. I normalize the abuse that nobody wants to seem to talk about. And I call it for what it is, which is abuse. I love you guys. Happy healing.
One thing that I would say to all people, like in any relationships, whether that's your job or your family, your friends, your significant other, ask yourself, who am I becoming in this situation with this person? Is this person bringing out the best in me, or are they bringing out the worst? Are they bringing out positive traits in me, or are they bringing out insecurities? Is this job bringing out the best in me and my creativity, or is this job bringing out paranoia? You know, what is the situation that you're currently in bringing out of you, and what are you becoming? Jim Rohn says that it's not necessarily about what you get, okay? The real treasure and or poison is what you become as a result of where you are. So with that being said, I'm going to leave you guys off with some words of encouragement and wisdom from some other people from the tickety talk. I'll see you guys next time. Remember, pay attention to who you are becoming. And if you don't like the person you are becoming, perhaps it is time to adjust the environment, because a seed grows in soil, but it dies on concrete. So with that being said, we'll hear some words of encouragement, and then that'll be that.
Sometimes you just gotta remind yourself, am her, been her, always will be her. Period.
I'm smart, I'm savvy, I'm charming, I can walk in any room and shift the energy. I am resourceful and I'm self-sufficient. I can stand 10 toes down on my own, no matter what the circumstances.